Hello, welcome to the Agency Download Podcast. Today we have the honor of hosting Joe Marckx. He is the founder of Digital Union Marketing, where he helps e-commerce brands unlock growth through brand development and performance marketing. He's an expert in gaining visibility on ChatGPT to drive high intent traffic in this new sales channel. He's also dedicated to preserving stories as the co-founder of Audio Life, a memoir service and podcast that assists families in creating a legacy. When he's not in the office or studio, you'll find him coaching youth soccer, cooking in the kitchen, or catching live music around New Orleans. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show today, Joe.
Yeah. Hey, James. Good to be here, man. Thanks for that intro. Probably a little long winded, but I like to get around, and do different things.
I think it gives you a good, full rounded understanding of who you are. So I think it's great. But I would love to really start with kind of what you're currently working on, because I think it's very top of mind for a lot of marketers and a lot of brands, which is what you're doing with SEO and ChatGPT. Could you just kind of break down of what you guys have done, what you guys are building, where you think the benefits and opportunities are?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just digital marketing in general, right? It's just changing so quickly if you just look at what's been happening the last 5 or 10 years. So, we've just realized that you've got to stay on your toes, right? And adapt to things. And you can't just rely on, what worked 5, 10, 20 years ago. So we do like to stay on the cutting edge. And as we all know, right, AI the last few years has become a big topic. And we're seeing a huge shift in search away from, the Google that we all used for now really a couple decades. And while Google's still the dominant search engine, a lot of consumers have switched over to using ChatGPT as a source of information. And so not only is ChatGPT becoming a source of information, whether it's, instead of Dr. Google, people are doing, health stuff in there. Obviously, a lot of people are using it in work for productivity, but it's also becoming kind of a concierge shopping service, so to speak, right? I mean, we all appreciate if you walk into a boutique or a specialized retailer and you have a knowledgeable, helpful person there that can really guide you towards, making the right purchase. People have realized that ChatGPT or other similar AI applications can help them find the right product. So ChatGPT or OpenAI and Shopify have entered into a partnership where in the near future, you're going to see a whole shopping experience happen inside the ChatGPT app. You're not going to have to leave the app and then go to multiple stores to shop around and find a deal or find the right product. ChatGPT is going to be your shopping concierge. It's going to lead you to the right product for your needs, and you're going to be able to check out an app. Those transactions will take place on Shopify. So the Shopify merchant will capture all the data, will capture the credit card, the transaction will take place there, but the user experience will remain solely in ChatGPT. So that's the experience that most of us are going to adopt or be commonly using as we go into 2026.
Amazing. And I think that's just so typical of, I mean, really of every industry. But one of the first learnings I really got was you have to be willing to adapt to change. And as technology has developed, right? And this is just the next evolution of that. Like when Google search came on and took over the search market, everybody had to adapt and change to that new technology and software. And now we're just seeing it with this. Could you speak a little bit more to that of like over your career, what are the kind of the big defining moments you've experienced where a new technology had to change and transition everything? How did you adapt to that? How did you help your clients with that?
Yeah, right on, James. Well, as an agency owner, right? Like if you're not staying on top of things and educating yourself, then, your old bag of tricks is not going to work for very long. So, but if we stay on the topic of search, right? If we go back again 5, 10 years, everyone always wanted to rank for short tail keywords, right? Like best running shoes or best headphones. If you're in those categories as an e-commerce merchant, and that was great, right? If you could dominate one of those just high volume search, keywords in Google, you were either going to have your ads work to your benefit or you were going to show up in the organic listings. And that drove a lot of, high intent traffic. But now, with people moving away from Google and into AI, it is also a shift in the way they're searching. And it's gone from this short tail to long tail to full blown conversations, right? So people are used to, hey, if I give ChatGPT more info, I'm going to get probably a better answer for my situation. So they're having full blown conversations in ChatGPT and not just putting in best running shoes, but they're putting in, hey, I want the best running shoes. I like these brands. I'm a size 10. I want them to be under 120 bucks. I'd love it if they're waterproof. Obviously, I want a highly rated product, blah, blah, blah. There's all these criteria that, you're typically just in that Google interface not going to put in there. So with ChatGPT, it's all about this conversational type of interface. And so we specialize in optimizing for Shopify merchants. So we're not doing this for every type of business under the sun and every web platform. But really, we go in and start with like a copywriting exercise. So the product title itself has to have more description than just, Nike Air Max, right? It would be something that's just like a little more descriptive than, I mean, of course, with Nike Air Max, that's maybe not the greatest example because that just has cachet on its own, but in the description, right, really making sure that there's all those bullet points that ChatGPT is going to pick up on that the consumer is looking for. And then beyond the copywriting, right, it's popping the hood, it's getting into custom meta field strategy, how you tag your products. The schema with the FAQ, it's similar to how SEO works. And ChatGPT loves that FAQ and they love bullet pointed data that it can just grab easily and read that data layer and then easily put that back into the answer for the query that the consumer's having. So we're just helping people align the way they do their Shopify copywriting and the data layer in the products to align with how ChatGPT and other AI agents like to read and serve up data. So, that's really the heart of how we optimize stores.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because it's really if you were doing that before, SEO agencies would do that before, just with Google's algorithm, understanding how does Google want to read
Yeah.
the page, and now you're doing it for the OpenAI and ChatGPT page, and it almost reminds me a lot of how Amazon listings and products are, right? They have really long product names, really in-depth descriptions. Are you kind of taking from how people are doing Amazon product listings and using a similar type of method on Shopify? I'm not trying to say that Amazon was set up to products are set up to communicate with OpenAI or ChatGPT, but the way you described it remind me of how a lot of Amazon product listings are.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of overlap in all this. Even traditional SEO and optimized, well written product description on Amazon and a Shopify store, like they don't have to be this mutually exclusive universes, right? I mean, it's just a shopping experience. But yeah, I've never really billed myself as an Amazon expert, but I did at one of the agencies I worked for previously to starting my own, they were Amazon experts. And so, I learned a lot about how to optimize the copywriting side of a product description at Amazon. And yeah, there's maybe not 100% overlap, but yeah, there's definitely a large overlap if you were looking at some sort of Venn diagram now. I think the other thing with Shopify is really understanding your product and the consumer and how do you match that up on a data level, right? So not just with words, but really tagging your products and aligning those meta fields. So, you know, the schema is really similar to how the Google algorithm is gone in the past. So yeah, a lot of overlap there, but it's just changing so quickly that to go back to answering your original question is I think Shopify merchants hopefully are starting to think about it. I mean, I think there's the ones that have optimized their store for ChatGPT are really going to see a lot of upside for the first time now with Black Friday around the corner and this before holiday shopping. But those that didn't, I think are going to realize that, they're missing out on some of that high intent traffic that does come from ChatGPT. And as this integration between OpenAI and Shopify gets fully baked, it's not going to be an optional thing for Shopify merchants moving ahead in 2026.
Absolutely. I think we're really seeing it too. I look at all the like paid traffic coming in, and then we also look at that against like organic traffic. And one of the biggest referral sources we've seen increase is referral traffic from ChatGPT,
Yeah.
which really just aligns with what I always tell people is the foundation of media, especially media buying or just marketing in general, is following where your consumer is spending time. that's really like a foundational principle that we're always after of understanding where people spending time. And then as marketers and advertisers, we really just follow people to wherever they're spending time. And so as people leave search engines and go to AI engines and large language model chatbots, that's where we're going to start following them to engage with them and provide them really. I think people look at it negatively, but really all we're trying to do is provide them higher quality and data and information that they are already seeking and searching. We're just trying to make it easier for them to find. That's my positive outlook on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, once upon a time, we pretty much just had Facebook and, maybe Twitter in the mix. And then Instagram came out and, the younger demographic migrated there and the older demographic proliferated on Facebook. And then we had TikTok and short form video became the thing. And it became not so much about who you were following, but your consumption behavior. You trained the algorithm to feed you new stuff, and discovery and short form video took over. So it's just like you're saying, it's just, where's the attention, right? Where are the eyeballs, and where's the trust? And the thing is, right, people that use ChatGPT more than just, the one off search here and there, but where it's part of their work flow, information flow, they trust it, right? It's not
Yeah.
this mistrusted source. And of course,
Yep.
yeah, we know there's examples of AI
For sure.
hallucinating, and
Yep.
there's times when they'll send you to a product listing that's sold out or something. It's not perfect yet, but it's another reason why, you need to perfect things on your side of the equation with Shopify, and making sure, your data feed, your inventory, your pricing, all that stuff's accurate. So when people do come, if AI recommends you, um, there's a good experience at the end of that click
Yeah, you're
or in
feeding
the
it
app.
the right data, the right information that potential consumers really want, and that's a great point. I've never even really thought about that, but people do trust the chatbots a lot with what data information they're getting, and hopefully that data information continues to be correct and accurate. But that makes me think of why people choose to buy products. If you look at the rankings of why, the top one always is friends and family recommendations, right? And then the next will be like, they heard maybe like an influencer or celebrity recommended it. And then usually advertising, unfortunately, is kind of in the middle to the bottom end of that because I think people have, it's been like a forced view, kind of advertising has been kind of crammed down people's throats and not come in a more organic way. I think that's changing in a lot of ways with a lot of brands are finding better ways to story tell and bring people along and get them to consume their content in a much more natural way. But I think what we're going to see over the next couple of years that goes right along with what you're doing is that Chat GPT and the other AIs are going to be a trusted source of where people are willing to buy stuff. I think it's going to be right up there, if not above, personal, friends and family recommendation. Do you think you'll see that kind of similar trend happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's humans, right? The family friend recommendation's great because we know, it's implicit they have our best interests at heart, right? They're not trying to sell us something. So it's like, oh, hey, I love this product, whatever it is. Social proof, right? It's hard to run a successful e-commerce store if you're not collecting lots of 5-star reviews. I mean, Amazon, I think a lot of conversions are just driven by the review rating. Obviously, social proof, right? We've seen all these collaborations with influencers and celebrities. Those certainly have a place in our world. But yeah, trust. And I think that from the world of marketing, it's more your brand is what creates trust, right? The advertising campaign, not as much, right? It might get your attention. It might meet you where you're at, where your attention's at, and get you to take action. But ultimately, the branding side of things is what's going to engender that trust. And I know, that you guys at your agency, James, work on all sorts of branding projects from, corporations, big and small. So yeah, I mean, trust is at the heart of how we operate as human beings. It doesn't mean we can't have fun with our advertising campaigns, right? And come up with cool, memorable campaigns and get people to take action, for whatever the reason, a new product drops, some seasonalities, some promotions, right? Especially at this time of year. But yeah, and it's if AI is this trusted personal shopping assistant, then how do you get your brand? to be noticed by AI and recommended by AI so that you can go from, hey, I'm over here, I exist, and the consumer's here, and they're coming through AI to figure out what to buy or who to buy it from. And that trust is implicit in the AI. Well, how do you get your brand to be noticed, right? And that's another trick that we're, bringing to the the digital marketing world, is understanding what sources ChatGPT is tracking to make its recommendations, how to reliably get noticed in those sources. And so there's other tools you can use. There's a lot of burgeoning ones that, obviously all of this is new and moving quickly. Additional tools, if we talk 6 months from now, that whole toolbox might be different.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some good tools to track, why and where you're getting cited and how to position your brand there. But you mentioned you're tracking, performance and how people are noticing your clients and reacting to campaigns. 6 months ago it was like, how do I even track, traffic from ChatGPT? Now, with Google Analytics, there's ways to make custom reporting, or there's other tools you can bolt on that'll show you which traffic's coming from ChatGPT. But whatever method you use for your analytics, or whatever tool you're using to track and visualize data, the main thing is that you see is when it comes from ChatGPT, it's higher intent. They spend more time on the website. They dwell more on the product listings, and they convert at a higher rate. And it just goes back to, the old days. If you got first or second position on organic search with Google, that was a gold mine, right? And
Absolutely.
things are just shifting there. So anyway, that's in a nutshell, that's what's going on with optimizing. Again, for us, we focus on Shopify merchants and, how to make sure that they're not losing out on this new sales channel, and letting the competition beat them to it. That's what we just want to do for our clients. And, because you asked me before, like, well, how is AI changing things in the digital marketing world?
Yeah.
And we've just spent, 15 minutes talking about ChatGPT and high intent traffic. But the other way AI is changing things, right, is we have our friends at Meta and Google. They've invested billions of dollars in their AI. And what has that done? It's what used to be one of the highest values as an agency we could bring to an online brand, was to run profitable Facebook ads campaigns right before it was
Yeah.
Meta, and run those Facebook ads, run the Google search ads. And this is before Performance Max and all that.
Yeah.
And it was such a high value thing if you could really figure out how to do that for clients, and they loved it. And now Meta and Google's like, you don't need the agency, you don't need the human being, just upload your stuff, tell us your goals, send us an image, send us a video, send us a logo, one line of copy, we'll write everything else. The algorithm will figure it out. And it's totally devalued that ad strategist, that ad technician. So while search has shifted into AI with what I believe is a ton of value there, paid media has shifted down to taking the value out of the creative and
Yep.
human element. And part of me is bummed about that, because it was so much fun to just produce killer results for clients. It was just one of the highlights of my week to bring the reporting and be like, hey, Mr. Client, you got a 10 ROAS this week. We want to spend more on, right?
Yep.
And that's just not happening now. And not to say that humans are completely removed from the equation, but that's where it's going. That's where the
100%.
the platforms want it to go. And so, you just got to wake up and smell the coffee and just go, all right, well, that's what we're dealing with. This is all bigger than me and my opinions, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And everyone's going to have to adapt and change in the new environment, because you're 100% right. I think within the next 5 years, I think your Facebook ads and Google ads in particular, you're going to be able to go to them and just say, here's an image, a video, headlines. I want this objective, and it's going to do everything else. There's not going to be any campaign setup. There's not going to be any optimization. There's not going to be any management. It's going to be 100% automated based off of your objective. Basically, if you could submit a media brief
Yeah.
of objective, my audience, my flight dates, my budget, it's going to do everything. So there is no manual optimizations. Meta Ads just released a major update, and they've been pushing this way for a long time, where it's just one campaign type, one ad set, no targeting, and creative, like 5 to 10 or maybe 10 to 15 ads, and like 5 to 10 headlines, very similar like a Google Ads product. They just released it, and that's all you need. Yeah, media buyers are going to be we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And there's a lot of agencies that only specialize in Facebook and Google ads. So I think one of two things can happen. I think in the short term, a lot of brands, even though they probably could figure it out, won't, because they still don't. The few steps you have to do, they're still not going to want to deal with it, right? Like even like a lot of AI tools they could use right now, they still hire agencies to do a lot of AI stuff, even though they could probably do it themselves. So I think in the short term, the media buying agencies will still survive with the like ease. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a compression on the revenue model agencies can offer. Because really, agencies should just are going to have to be willing to take either lower fees, retainer fees, or commission fees, or whatever their pricing model is, and just do more. Because you can, because Google and Meta ads made your job 10 times easier because there is no more daily monitoring, optimization, and management that is going to happen. That's what I see coming within the next 5 years for the media buying space.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that as long as you've got enough budget to feed the algorithm so it can gain the data to figure out who your true client is, and your data feed is optimized, right,
Yeah.
from your website. So it's seeing all the actions and knowing this didn't work, that was a bot, or that was a click that went nowhere. But hey, these people, and so there's just different data sources, right? You can use your own VIP
Hmm.
customer list and upload that for to model the data and track. So there's still going to be some ways to look at some strategy of how do I feed that algorithm better. And it's just like we do a lot of branding projects. So whether we're working with startups or brands that just are ready for a refresh, their brand's gotten a little stale, we build what we call a brand Bible. And it's the North Star for the organization, right? And it encompasses the whole personality and vibe of the brand and the voice, and obviously the visuals, like, what's the logo and the typography and the color palette. But what we've come up with recently as an add-on to that is, hey, look, your organization's going to be using AI, right? And marketing. So why not make it consistent? Why not make sure that the AI is primed to put out a result that's in alignment with this North Star, right? With your brand Bible that we built. So
Yep.
we build a custom GPT for
Nice.
clients, and it's kind of the same thing in your Facebook's ad account, right? It's not going to treat every supplement brand the same. They're not at the same life cycle. They don't have the same vibe, or every, sporting goods brand the same. It's going to learn who your customer is, and it's going to learn which ads work. And so same thing, like you don't want people just grabbing, chat GPT that's like processing different data from that account. It's just like, here's the custom version. Just use this link. Only click on this when you're working on the brand. And you train it with like, hey, here's my website. I need to ingest every page on this website. Here's all my best performing um,
Ads and
email
creative.
campaigns, all
Yeah.
my best performing ads. Here's my brand Bible. Here's, all the relevant stuff you'd want to, here's my best press releases. This encompasses my brand. And so I just think, right, it's just training the AI with, garbage in, garbage out, or, you take time and you put in pristine data that really is at the heart of what you are as a brand or an organization, and you're going to get consistent output. So I think people just need to realize that these tools are not that scary. They can be highly productive, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist or, a programmer or whatever to use them properly. But it's not just a plug and play, right? It does take a little bit of effort to set the table properly. And I think that's it. As long as people start realizing that and are willing to do a little bit of legwork on the front end, this technology is going to be amazing.
Yeah. That's what I mean. And that's what I see is that like, that's why I don't see like the media marketer is going to be completely kicked out because of AI, because somebody still needs to manage it. And I don't see brands, not all brands at least, going to have somebody that's going to become the AI expert across all the different AIs, the media buying platforms, the AIs to do all the different marketing efforts. Somebody still has to oversee and influence all these engines and know how to pull the right triggers, whether it's the right prompts or the right setup or feeding it the right data. Whoever can adapt to that, I think is gonna succeed and survive in this kind of next generation where marketing and advertising is going. And those that don't and kind of holding on, that are unwilling to adapt and change, like we started this conversation off, if they're unwilling to adapt and change to this, then they're going to get left behind. And that's what always happens, though, I think, in every technology development.
Yeah, I think, right? It's going to be a fun ride here, everyone.
Yeah.
Buckle up. Like, here we go. There's nothing you can do to change the world. But on the other hand, right, I think that's also going to make people crave in real life experiences, right? And
Yeah.
so we all love the fact, James, you're in San Diego, I'm in New Orleans, we're chatting, we're cool. I didn't have to get on a plane or vice versa for us to have this conversation. So this is a great use of technology, right? But it's why like events and having a brand that builds community and creates that engagement beyond just like what are these chat robot like virtual friend stuff like I yeah I don't think that's ultimately going to be fulfilling, and that part of the technology, I could be wrong, will not be, we're not all just going to have a gang of virtual friends, right? We're still going to crave human experience.
Always. I hope
But
the next generation kind of resists even more of the digital life, and maybe we come back full circle and are more
yeah,
focused on in-person experiences and connections and all of that. So we'll see how that evolves. But I think the other part that's really important, though, that marketers and media buyers in particular need to be mindful of, and I think we're losing a bit of this. And the previous generation that was more like the TV and the radio buyers, they kind of protected the brand and were like the watchdogs of the media. And I think the new media buyers that have only managed Facebook and Google ads, and they take the courses from Facebook and Google, and they do everything Facebook and Google says, they lost that watchdog mentality of that. At the end of the day, Meta and Google are sales organizations trying to sell media inventory to you. They just control the buy side and the sell side of the equation, but you need to be the watchdog to make sure that the ads, where the ads are being served, who they're targeting, what's happening with the media budgets are being driven in the right way. That's the best outcome for the advertiser and the client. And that's kind of I see as the other element, especially with this AI takeover of AI automating a lot of things. Is it still in the best intention of the advertiser? Is it using the budget wisely?
yeah, I think, from a targeting standpoint and testing standpoint, the AI is great. It's going to be able to do it at scale and more efficiently and effectively than a human buyer can. But like, coming up with the ad and like, okay, well, what level are we at? Are we working on awareness and someone's never heard of me?
Yep.
And how do I introduce them to the brand? And then how do I get them to consider and build a little bit of trust? And what is the on ramp to the brand? What product or service is a great way to get into that experience? Or if I'm trying to get someone that's gone through a couple of these steps and these touch points, but they still haven't converted, like, how do I effectively remarket to them? Right. And it's not by going back and showing them the original ad.
Right.
Right. So it's how within this AI driven algorithm, and we'll just continue with Meta as our example, do we hit them with the next step in that process of that customer journey? And then there's no shortage, right, of stay in my world of online, e-commerce, direct to consumer, Shopify stores of businesses that make that irresistible offer on Instagram with the thing, and they get that first sale, but like the person never comes back.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't have a business if you're not getting repeat purchases, right? Like even
100%.
if you're a car manufacturer and people, the life cycle's 6 years or whatever it is, right? You still need to get that repeat purchase. So I think, right, the trust and the brand and the vibe that you put out, not just the quality of the product, is what's going to maintain that retention and that repeat purchase kind of thing. And because it's you know we're not selling milk where people, whatever, bread or eggs. It's
Yeah. And
like
they're
you're
not commodities.
selling
There's a
you're
lot of
selling
our
apparel,
Yep.
footwear, sporting goods. I mean, beauty care, skincare, supplement stuff. So it's really having a brand is what we found underpins all of the success, right? Because they
100%.
say what sales is for people that don't know how to do marketing, and marketing's for people that don't know how to do branding.
Yeah.
And so I think, we always encourage our clients to just take a good look in the mirror with their brand and say, hey, is this a vibrant thing that everyone feels good about? Or is there a way for us to do a refresh? Because that's what everything else sits on. Your media buying, your next campaign, your next product launch. Is it in alignment with the brand and what your target audience really needs? So AI can't solve that for you, right? It can't tell you how to speak, what you believe in. You have to come up with that as a founder, or as an agency partner collaborating with founders. And so, a lot of people want to skip that step, but it tends to not work out too well.
Yeah, it's the challenge I always run into, especially with a lot of e-com brands, that they're so focused and are kind of on thin margins from their CAC to their AOV, and they're just trying to get to the next month of sales without investing in any of the foundation, which is the brand, which is going to carry them through the long run. So it's like, how do you balance the short term needs of being profitable month to month, but the long term, how do you build that real, true, valuable brand that makes people want to be true believers and be loyalists to your brand and buy it no matter what? Like, I buy Apple products. I'm just like, I'm too ingrained in the Apple ecosystem to move and not buy an Apple product. Like, even if there's a better product out there, like I bought their headphones, Apple AirPod Maxes. If you watch some videos, there's like way better headphones, but the integration, the ecosystem's so good that I have to buy it. So we're like, I don't how small brands build that ecosystem environment of like getting somebody to buy not just one product, but the second, third, the fourth is a huge challenge. I think for a lot of smaller mid e-com brands that are trying to build and grow.
Yeah, we see it all the time. And I get it as a business owner. If you don't have the resources and the funding and the staff, it's hard to look a year down the road and say,
Yeah.
hey, what do I want my brand to stand for? And how do I communicate that and build up that community? They just want to know that if they hire you on the first of the month, like how much profit are you going to have made them by the end of the month? And how many units that are in their warehouse now are going to be turned into cash?
Yeah.
And it's just a hurry up and sell stuff for me mentality as an agency. And I hate approaching it that way. It's like, sure, I mean, we could just hurry up and run some campaigns, but
Yeah.
we've talked about this before. It's just like, come on, like let's use the next 90 days to set the table and plan things out. And then we could start to really probably see some progress the next 90 days, right? The next quarter. And by the end of the year, if we're all following a plan and a strategy, we'll probably be high-fiving each other. But if you're just gonna take me on a month-to-month ride and put a gun to my head, lower your CAC,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's probably not gonna be fun for any of us, right?
Eventually, it's gonna burn out, and that's what I
Yeah.
see is, like, I think most brands, they need to find especially smaller brands, they need to find an ecosystem or a network where they can own and control their audience, so they're not reliant on buying the traffic. One of the early
Yeah.
principles I learned was transition your traffic from traffic you're buying to traffic you own. How do you own your audience? And, like, we used to do it through email lists was, like, the number one way. And I think that has kind of is still a valuable channel, but there's so many other ways to build like community and networks and groups. Like online world has made it very easy to make a lot of niche groups. And I think every brand has the opportunity to create and lead a niche group where their brand loyalists can live and that they can continue to engage with them and not just sell them, but provide them actual value. And that's where I think a lot of brands need to go, especially small to mid-sized brands. They need to create those communities. And there's so much opportunity to do that now if you have the right strategy and long-term vision. But the hardest thing is starting it and building it and growing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. We're always preaching that. Just build some community, don't just post just to post, like get engagement. Don't just send an email to send another discount code, right? Like give people something. Don't always make it your communications transactional. You got to just give and give and give.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in the sense of
Like
giving away
product.
products, right?
Yeah.
But just, you know, the giving creates the community, the engagement, the information, the entertainment, and creating that as a brand or going and finding stuff around the world that you can say, "Hey, James, I thought you might be interested in this," right? And I put it inside of an email, a newsletter, and it's not always just self-serving. Getting out there in the big world beyond the Shopify store, the email list, and having those events where you can turn that person from a casual consumer into a brand loyalist, right? A brand fanatic by having them meet someone at your booth at the whatever event or thing. And they're like, "Oh, I met, so and so. They were super cool. It was great." Right. And then that word of mouth, spreads from there. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. It's not an easy task, but I think it's always worth it to try and build that and not just be this faceless corporate entity that's got widgets for sale and that widget's a little bit cheaper than the other widget.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I get it. There's a world, there's a commodity world, there's Amazon has all that stuff, right? So if you want
Right.
a widget and a commodity, then go to amazon.com and shop to your heart's content. But think in the Shopify world, we've got a chance to, have a premium branded, personalized, engaged experience. And that's what we try and, create for our clients.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to, yeah, the founder, owners, what's their vision and goal for their brand. But it just makes everything so much easier when you can build those. Like your ads work better, you get lower customer
Yeah.
acquisition
Yeah.
costs, everything over the
Totally.
long run. So it's like it's just the foundation. Like, do you build a good foundation for your house or not? That you go on. But I would like to transition, just talk
Sure.
a bit about audio life and kind
Yeah.
of the vision like you took, you've been working in the marketing world, and then sounds like you had an opportunity to create your own business and e-com and service. Can you talk a little bit about Audio Life, the vision behind it? Because I thought it's an amazing product and service that I think so many people are going to need and want, for their family and pass down legacies and stories and everything else.
Yeah, happy to shift gears. So, Audio Life is more of a passion project. It was born out of my MBA program where we, had to create a capstone that tied together all the curriculum. And the business plan was sketching out Audio Life as a memoir service in the form of a podcast, but not a public podcast that's distributed to everyone everywhere, but a private podcast that could be shared with your tribe, right? With your loved ones, your friends, your family, and and creating that legacy. So maybe people in your family that aren't born yet, right? I have a 7-year-old son, right? And I've recorded my memoir, and maybe his son will get a chance to listen to that. So it's really creating this priceless legacy. And of course, there's a lot of great memoir services out there. We know the traditional memoir is write a book, a written format. And there's services where, you can get an email a week for a year and you can answer 52 questions and then they'll put those together in a book, maybe with some pictures. But we really felt something missing from that format is the voice.
Yeah.
And that through the voice, you can sense the personality, the humor, the wisdom, and that we wanted to be able to capture that and also just make it a little easier for people to record it. So we've got this through a couple years of R&D, came up with a way to interview people, sets of questions that really draw out that true story, that personality, that life philosophy, those life lessons that people want to share. So it's this mix of funny anecdotes from childhood or whatever mixed in with the wisdom that only older people have and that they want to share that perspective with the next generations. So it's really easy to do. You just book a interview with one of our capable interviewers. You sit in a virtual studio like this recording we're doing now and get a chance to tell your life story that's guided, and then we edit it all up and deliver it as a private podcast that can then be shared indefinitely and easily. It can be listened to on any podcast app. We create a streaming page where there's a streaming player, photo gallery, a biography, and stuff like that. So people universally love it. There's sometimes people approach it a little bit of trepidation, like,
Yeah.
I'm not that interesting. What do I have to share? This and that. We have the ability to build that rapport quickly and make them feel at ease. So by the end of the interview, they're all just really hit their stride and grooving and enjoying the conversation. And they all enjoy the experience of just recording, but then they with pride and share the result with their family. And usually if we've heard of people doing listening parties with their loved ones, and there's, usually never a dry eye in the house.
Yeah.
But really we recreated it to remove regret, right, from people's lives, because we've all lost a loved one and their stories are gone with them. And most people don't leave behind a detailed memoir. So we wanted to remove that regret from people's world and give them the ability to quickly and easily create a meaningful memoir. And yeah, so that's kind of what we do at Audio Life. We have a public podcast that we produce 2 episodes a month. So you can hear some interesting stories from a variety of characters under Audio Life Memoirs on wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. So it's been super fun to learn about podcasting through producing that. I love a good podcast myself. So to be able to produce one with my co-founder and then produce these memoirs for people, it's really been fulfilling. I've gotten to hear so many stories and learn about people that I never would have otherwise. And so yeah, not in some self-serving way. There's a lot of other ways to create a legacy. Whatever makes sense for you and your family, I highly recommend that you make the effort to do that. Whether it's people write a will or create a trust so that their financial assets are in order and their you know desires are fulfilled legally. Sure, money, that's a real thing, but the priceless stories and the personality and the wisdom, I think, are more valuable. And so whatever works for any of you listening out there, go ahead and help your loved ones create a legacy before it's too late.
Yeah. Amazing. I love it. And there's what they say, leaves by the third generation is gone.
Yeah.
But if you can instill principles and values that get passed down, and I think this is just a fantastic, amazing way to do it. Something that I think is ingrained all humans that forever generations have always done is pass down stories. And I think this is just the use of modern technology to pass down stories in a much more accurate and a much more a way that makes a lot of sense and is easy and accessible for the next generation. So I think it's amazing. It's a product that I want to use myself for my mom. So very cool that you built that out.
Yeah, yeah, we're still building it, and we're adding on different forms of the service, but that's what we just described is at the heart of like our original product rollout. We've got some other things on our roadmap that, we're just kind of testing the market with. But yeah, it's something that, we've just, again, the passion there to preserve culture, right? Because just everyone's got this unique story. Like you mentioned, right? We've been passing down knowledge and wisdom through storytelling before we could write as a species, right? Over the campfire before we had writing and written language. And it still makes sense to this day, whether it's an oral history or written history.
Yeah. Which
And that's how
also, just
we,
to connect it back full circle back to marketing and branding, is that stories are the foundation, I think, of really good brands. And I've talked to through this podcast series, I've talked to a lot of creative agencies, and all of them talk about storytelling as the kind of foundation of building their brands, and the brands that they work on is storytelling because it's so ingrained in all humans. And we can understand and appreciate and connect and resonate with brands or people or learn things all through stories. And so I think it's a great way to pass down personal and generational legacies. And then a great way for also for brands to learn from of how to resonate and connect with consumers and who their tribe is.
yeah, I mean, that's exactly it, right? Succinctly, we are hardwired to remember stories. So as
Yeah.
marketers, we should remember that that's what people will take away. Statistics and data and different things. Those numbers are easily forgotten. Now you can tell stories through data or numbers or analytics that will help for people to remember what's going
Or
on there.
just
But yeah,
the
storytelling's what we're
promotion, like a promotion and a discount on Black Friday.
yeah.
that is like all promotional base, zero branding focus, but like that will only get you so far. I think the brand, building the brand and the story behind your brand and why it's meaningful and valuable for consumers or whoever you're trying to reach, whatever value you're trying to share. I think that's really what should be the focus on for most of the year. The last question for you was, if you could give your earlier self any advice for when you got into the advertising marketing business world,
Mm.
what would that piece of advice be?
Well, I had the privilege to be mentored by a pretty brilliant person who took me under his wing. Shout out to Heath Lehman. And so it took me a year to really just orient in this whole industry. And we were coming at it more from just we weren't an agency just doing Facebook ads or just paid media. We were really trying to, do full e-commerce consulting with multi-layered digital strategy. And so for me, I kind of jumped in from a strategist standpoint of not just a media buyer, as media buying being one element of the strategy, email marketing, an optimized Shopify store. How does that pair up with your brand in other channels, whether it's Amazon or brick and mortar? So I would say, if I take my personal journey, it would be to really look at the big picture and look at a strategy and look at how different channels tie together and can give each other lift if they're done properly, and not to isolate one channel, because brands don't live in one channel at one touch point. They live in a whole consumer ecosystem, right? And so that's okay if you decide then, hey, I just want to be an expert in email marketing or, heaven forbid, meta ads at this point. Uh, but so if you want to go deep on something to be an expert, that's great, but don't lose sight of the big picture and how a full blown strategy is really what's going to be ultimately successful in this digital realm. Everything I know about branding, I've learned from my brother, Michael, who's my business partner. And I would say, I probably, in my zeal to just go help people sell stuff online, run that campaign, right? That meta ads, and collect those emails and grow that list and do landing pages and all that on their store. I overlooked, taking that initial step of setting the table and creating that foundation properly with the brand. And now that I'm this far into it, I realize there is nothing that can replace that first step in creating a strong brand. So yeah, so I guess, create a strong brand, take a big picture look at your strategy that you layer on top of that. And three, going back to the beginning of our conversation, stay light on your toes, right? Be ready to adapt, be ready to change with technology, because it's never stops, the changes. And if you aren't in it now and you're like, how do I get into digital marketing? Just go, just jump in now,
Yep.
because a year from now, things will be totally different than they are in 2025. And you can now be the new expert because you've been in it for a year or whatever. So just, if you're thinking about getting in, just jump in now and learn and go and, have fun with it, because it's, as much as we love the in-person stuff, people, the attention is in the digital world so much, right? We're all stuck to these devices. I'm on a
Yep.
laptop talking to you. I've got a phone here. That's not changing. So
No.
go for it.
Yep. Awesome. I love it. Yeah, I think the new technology creates new opportunities, and I think that's where a lot of young people need to realize. Like when I was coming into the advertising space, the programmatic boom was happening with the open internet.
Yeah.
We went from
Yeah.
direct insertion orders or black
Yeah.
box network buys to buy a bunch of sites to automated media buying through programmatic. And I learned that channel, became an expert in that, and that's taken me over a 10-year career managing $100 million, buying ads across every single different digital property because I just absorbed myself in one. So I love that. That's how I looked at it when I was entering. And I think the next generation of digital marketers need to look at it that same way. And totally 100% agree with, I think the value now with like the AIs are going to automate all the tactics. But what we still need is smart strategists to understand what technologies to use, where are people spending time, how to allocate resources, how to build and connect brands, how to use the tools. We need that overarching strategist. And that's what we're really big and focused on, is that's why we don't only buy meta ads, but we buy connected TV and streaming audio. And we also still use like digital out of home or out of home billboards or TV. Like, how do you do something that your competitors aren't doing? Where your competitors' strengths are? Where are the opportunities for your brand? I think it takes a really good strategist to understand and connect all those dots and pieces. And so I love that. Couldn't agree more with that advice. So appreciate you yeah, sharing all of that.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I mean, I think, right, like that CMO position or that marketing director, VP of marketing that's driving the strategy, guy's not gonna replace all of that, right? They're not gonna create, and even just, on the design aspect, I mean, like you could tell when AI created a logo and when a human did, right? It's just that you could tell when AI wrote something and when a human did, right? AI is not gonna win a Pulitzer Prize. AI is not gonna win, or create the next, logo for a global brand.
I
So
think it
there's
just
plenty of
allows
room
people
for.
to do things faster and quicker. That's what it's gonna
Yeah.
allow. Like, if you wanna create more content faster, like we were talking about, build a niche community for your true audience, your true believers, your fans. And I think AI tools are gonna allow people to do that faster, easier, at a lower cost than what they were able to do before. And I think that's really the big value.
Yeah, and so, there's plenty of room for human beings and our creative minds and souls to, you know, create beautiful brands and companies and products. But yeah, AI, right? It's like go to Microsoft. They're just like, yeah, we're not hiring a bunch of entry level coders anymore. We've got
Yeah.
AI for that. Like we need
Yep.
people to be able to QC the code,
Right.
and then really bright people to, come up with whatever that other layer is on top of that. That's not my world, but I mean, even someone like me, I understand a Shopify store. I'm not a coder. I'm not, fluent and liquid and all this stuff, but I can go to Chat GPT. If I know what I'm looking for, I could tell it, it'll give me the snippet of liquid and tell me where to
Yeah.
put it in the theme, and boom, it works. Right. So it's like,
Right.
those types of things, like we talked about the ad technicians, the ad buyers and Meta, those things. But AI is going to create a whole other set of opportunities and roles. So, again, people just have to adapt. It's okay. Let's have fun with it. But yeah, don't forget to get outside and take a walk and,
Yeah.
get some fresh air, be in the 3D world. Because as much as technology's evolved, our brain is still wanting to sit by that campfire, tens of thousands of years ago and connect via story and just, experience. So,
100%. Have
that's
some
where we're at.
balance.
It's an interesting times.
Yep, no doubt. Awesome. Well, how can people connect with you or work with you? Could you share any of that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've got a website that talks a little bit about our agency at Digital Union, digitaljunionmarketing.com, or I can just be reached at joe at digitalunionmarketing.com. Audio Life is just over at audiolife.io. Again, I'm just joe at audiolife.io for email. So it's probably the quickest way to get in my inbox. I actually still check email. Our website will give you a little bit more of a gist of what we do. I also have specific to the AI commerce stuff we talked about at the beginning of the chat. You can learn more about that at aicommercesolutions.com. That kind of explains the whole service and the benefit. So yeah, hit me up. I would love to chat with anyone. If you're just getting into marketing, want a couple pointers, happy to mentor. If there's some value we can bring to your business, let's chat about what that looks like. But other than that, we only work with cool people. So if you've got an attitude or you've got unreasonable expectations, please disregard everything I just said.
Ditto.
You can cut that out if you want, but we just like working with cool people that have, reasonable approach to business and life.
Yep, 100%. I'm right aligned with that. To keep the stress levels down that way. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on today, Joe. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, James, always good to connect with you, man. Thanks for allowing me to rattle on here. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And yeah, let's stay in touch, my man.